Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And yes, I'm filming during the day. My hair's up in braids. This is what I look like during the day. This earrings, and hair. My in-laws have my daughter, so I decided to get some work done here. This is also, I did the My Little Pony. If you're watching my channel, the same day. This is the beginning of February. So we're going to be looking at one of our musicals here. So we're going to be looking at Mary Poppins. Similar to The Sound of Music, this is not a library copy. This is mine. So this is a musical from, I believe it's 64. Let me bring up the IMDb page here a little bit. Yeah, 64. So, and it stars the beloved Dame Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke, David Tomlinson, loosely his wife is Glynis Johns, and then you have the two children played by Karen Dulce and Matthew Garber. So, and then of course you have a different other cast of characters. So, but if you're not familiar with what this movie is, David Tomlinson is Mr. Banks. He has two children, Jane and Michael, who keep going through nannies because they're children. And he's hiring prim British nanny, and his children are children. And they're driving Kristen crazy. And because because the nannies are kind of mean to them, they're kind of mean back, because of course they are. Who wouldn't be? So he loses his nanny. He writes an advertisement for a nanny, and Mary Poppins shows up and gets rid of everybody. And she's magical. And she comes in on an umbrella. And the entire point of the film is that Mr. Banks needs to become more of a family man. It's very much of the strict Edwardian English father, which is also very based on common family stereotypes of the era that it was filmed. And probably before that, where the husband goes to work and he doesn't have much to do with raising the children. And the entire point of this film is you need to be more involved in raising your children and playing with your kids. So why on earth he still wouldn't need a nanny? Well, that would be more your wife needs to pay more attention to your children, as much as her entire purpose is giving the women's right to vote, which again is very good, but it's not really brought up that much in this film. But again, Walt Disney was sexist, as was most men at that time, but pretty much he was sexist. He was probably an anti-Semite and racist. But P.L. Travers was not much better. That is the creator of Mary Poppins as the character. He fought hard and bugged her and harassed her until she gave up the rights. And then really didn't want anything to do with her because she was annoying. Again, she's not really a good person either, so they kind of deserved each other. I've watched stuff on her. And one of her godchildren say she liked the idea of children. She adopted one of two twins. Didn't tell him he was adopted. When he was 18, his twin brother showed up at their doorstep. From what I was able to see, some of the stuff I watched, the son is now an alcoholic. Because she, again, as her godchildren said, she liked the idea of children. She wanted to be a wife and a mother, but she was not cut out for it. She also lied about her origins until her 80s. She said she was from Ireland or Wales or somewhere in the British Isles. Which she might be, distantly related, but she's Australian. She was Australian. That's where she came from. I believe she grew up in either Melbourne or Sydney. That's where she is from. So, again, P.L. Travers was not a nice person. Of course, neither was Walt Disney. He had lots and lots of issues. But that's not the point of this. Back to Mary Poppins. Again, you have various different scenes. This was also the very beginning of what we would call green screen work now, where you have the actors in front of green screens and they're interacting with things that aren't really there. In this case, animation. They never done this before. This was very, very new. And originally it wasn't supposed to be in the film that much. When Disney saw how well they could do it, they did a lot more, which pissed off P.L. Travers to no end. She hated those scenes, which if you're, again, not familiar with film, that's the penguins and the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious song. So that's that entire carousel ride thing. So, my favorite song in this is actually Feed the Birds. It's a very, very pretty, almost lullaby-like song. So, and of course the entire point is Mr. Banks works too much, and you have a whole big thing where he wants his son to put this tuppence that he found on the street into the bank to grow, and he wants to use it to feed the birds. So, and then it causes a whole disaster in the bank because he doesn't want to give up his money, and everybody hears that, and they kind of go crazy and want their money back. And it kind of, Mr. Banks loses his job. And then he realizes he should be spending more time with his children. And you have the whole Let's Go Fly a Kite song. And of course, Mary Poppins leaves. Because the entire point is, as is very common with these very special, I think Nanny McPhee is the other one. I may actually look at those in the future. And see how close those are to the book series. Where the benevolent nanny comes in, helps the family, and then leaves. Because they don't need her anymore. So, and Mary Poppins leaves because the children have their family. So it's a Disney musical and it's a classic. It's fun. For if you're looking at it for a homeschool thing, again, you have that representation of that brand new, the green screen work with that and integrating animation. So the actors actually did a very good job because they had never done something like this before. Yes, even though it's like 4:30 in the afternoon, I'm still tired. My child was up constantly. They're trying to figure out what's going on with her allergies, or if she has a cold. Because 3-year-olds. But by the time you see this, she will be 4. She's 3 now. But again, it's a beloved movie. I adore Julie Andrews. I enjoy Dick Van Dyke. I was a fan of the Dick Van Dyke Show. When I was younger, yes, I'm not similar to my daughter, I'm not a great sleeper, so I was up watching Nick at Night when I was in elementary school. And yes, now as an adult, I realize just how sexist Dick Van Dyke's Show is, not to mention I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and, what else was I watching? Green Acres, the I Love Lucy show. Yeah, I was in elementary school watching very old sitcoms. I think I even watched Dragnet. Yeah, I don't think I understood it. But again, it's Disney. As much as I don't like Disney as a corporation, because they're evil as a corporation, you just can't beat Mary Poppins. Similar to Sound of Music, which again is a Roger Hammerstein's film. I will say this, and I think I brought this up in my Bedknobs and Broomsticks review. The interesting connection between this film and that film is that if they couldn't have gotten Julie Andrews for this, they were going to use Angela Lansbury as Mary Poppins. And if they couldn't have also, the other thing that was going on is Bedknobs and Broomsticks was in production at that time. So they were planning it if they couldn't get P.L. Travers to sign over her books and the rights to make this film. So, and then when they did finally decide to make Bedknobs and Broomsticks, they originally offered it to Julie Andrews, who refused it, and thus you get one of my favorite movies with Angela, the now late Angela Lansbury. So that is the interconnection. And of course you still have that, another introduction to the cartoon and the green screen effects plays, I think, almost even more in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, because they had perfected it more at that point. And I have covered that video. But that's how these guys are connected. This one, strangely enough, is also connected to My Fair Lady, which is the other one that I'm covering. As well as the other funny thing I'll add in this is during the Sound of Music, Julie Andrews was singing things to the children. You know, she's having to entertain like 7 kids periodically on set with songs from Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins had not come out yet. So they thought she was just making up songs for them rather than singing them from her previous production. So, absolutely wonderful film. Great if you're looking at the animation. Great if you love Julie Andrews. Great if you're looking at film history. This is an amazing part of film history. as of course is The Sound of Music and some of the other ones that I will be filming. So yes, I'm covering musicals and music in general. So, and I still have I have Funny Girl here that I still need to go through, and My Fair Lady. Those two are the other two that have not been done yet. They're sitting on my desk. I actually have to watch them because I've never seen them. I know this very well. I also covered The King and I, which I already did, which has issues. Lots of issues. So you can watch that video as well. But I cover a bunch of things if you're not familiar with my channel. Covering music, I've covered unicorns this year. I covered LGBTQ stuff. I covered Caribbean American History Month. I have a tendency to cover, I will cover African American History Month. I do cover Asian American History Month. Those are pretty regular. I covered vaccines this year. I covered women in flight last year. I did do Native American history, I think last year, maybe the year before. There's not a lot of media on that, so it's hard for me to do that when it comes to book and film reviews. And plus, it's not my culture, and it takes a lot of work to make sure I'm getting stuff accurate, and I want to make sure I'm true to that. Same with the LGBTQ stuff. Why books are really easy to come by, media is not. Oddly enough, the same with unicorns. Books, easy to come by. Media, not so much. I ended up doing some stuff on narwhals because, again, the media is really hard to come by. The musical's a little bit easier. There's tons of musicals. I'll be covering more musicals. And I also cover book series. I'm doing that more starting here in 2023, and I'm going to continue that. I covered The Princess Diaries this year, followed by, we did Tamora Pierce, both her Song of the Linus Quartet and the Immortals Quartet. I have previously covered the Circle of Magic, everything except for Melting Stones and Battle Magic, which are part of the Circle Opens. I covered everything else, and that was previous stuff. Trying to think. Covering Guardians of Ahul. I don't know if that's going on right now. I don't think so. Yes, it is. Still covering that. Guardians of Ahul will fall. Goes on and on and on. And through the rest of September. So the Guardians of Ahul. Then I'll be covering May Kevin's Allie Finkel. That's about 6 books. And then I'll be finishing off the year with a couple more of the books, The Wolves and the Polar Bears from Catherine Lasky, which are connected to the Guardians of Ahul. And then if you're looking for series stuff that's even more upcoming, I'm doing the 3 graphic novels of the Animorph series because I can't get a hold of the paperbacks. My library has a mismatch. So it's some of it's audiobooks, some of it's physical books, and I'm not an audiobook person. I simply do not have the time, and I don't have the split focus to be able to do that kind of thing. So I'm going to cover the 3 current graphic novels, and I'm going to go into the Anne of Green Gables, which I'm going to cover more in depth rather than my really, really early video on the hour-long thing that I did, which I didn't cover everything. So I'm going to cover them book by book and look at the the Avonlea TV series as well in correspondence with that. Other theme stuff, I don't know yet. That's kind of where I am going to look at more mysteries. So coming up in December, I am covering film mysteries as well. So lots to look forward to. Check out what I've got. I cover a bunch of stuff. I've already covered a bunch of stuff. I cover some science stuff as well. I cover occasional travel videos. There should be 2 this year, so you should be able to check out those as well. So, and I think I covered board games, and I'll cover a few other things. My films come out Fridays. My books come out Mondays. Anything else usually comes out on Wednesdays. So those are the random stuff. That's not normally completely planned. So that I add to it when I'm working on it. So that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you have a positive comment, please add it. Thank you.